For those who are joining us on the feed, I just recently restarted the feed. I had a glitch on the laptop here, so my fault. It may have looked right to you, but I wanted to be sure. Again, FYI, if you subscribe to the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel for audio podcasts, Blog Talk Radio has just merged with Spreaker. And so they're making some changes to how the podcasts release. And it's not going to change any of your RSS feeds if you already use like a podcast app on your phone or whatever, or you listen through iTunes. But for those who like the audio podcast on YouTube, unfortunately, it looks like that I'm going to nix those here on January the 1st, 2019. So you'll only see like a video podcast. If we do something like we're doing next week with Aaron Raw, a Skype feed as he and I talk on video about the pagan origins of many Christmas traditions. Tomorrow's release is a speech that I recently gave in Orlando called Unskeptical, finding the real story in a world of half-truths. It's a fun and interesting sort of a romp through some of the crazy stuff that you and I see bouncing around on the internet that's either not true or it's not totally true. And so I think you're going to enjoy that. And that's a video thing, so it's going to release to YouTube. But I think starting in January, if it's audio only for the podcast, you will need to listen on a podcast app, which is probably going to make more sense, isn't it? I mean, rather than the big ass download, it's a much bigger file on YouTube. I would think it'd be easier just to grab any, and there's a ton of them. Just get one. You can actually just have the MP3 file streamed or downloaded right there to your app, or you can just listen via Blog Talk Radio or iTunes online via your computer. Okay, so you'll want to make preparations for that. Find an app you like, and please stick with me. If also you're interested in a commercial-free show and getting the broadcast early, my supporters on Patreon get a special RSS feed. Special commercial-free broadcast. So we whittle all the commercials out of it, and we optimize it just for them. And then they usually get it Sunday instead of Tuesday. And they also get to support the broadcast in, a meaningful way. So it's sort of a trade-off. It's a symbiotic relationship. They get to skip all the commercials. And what they do to get that is just a small measure of support for me and my work here, because this is what I do for a living. If you want to get that RSS feed and be a supporter, you can set up the parameters, patreon.com/Seth Andrews. I bought a Christmas deer. Let me explain. Halloween is my holiday. You guys already know this about me. Anybody who's listened to me ranting or heard the Ghost Stories audiobook or seen photographs of the decorations in my yard, you know that I love Halloween. I tolerate most of Christmas. There's a lot about Christmas that I do like. I use the word Christmas. This time of year have people ask, well, why would you call it Christmas if you don't believe in Christ? As if this is some kind of a profound challenge. It's called Christmas. This is how the holiday is known. And of course, those of you familiar with me have heard the response. I like Thursdays. Does it mean I have to believe in Thor? I love Monday. Do I worship the moon? I love January because I'm kind of a winter guy. Does that mean I believe in Janus? Those types of things. Come on. I mean, it's the colloquial term for the holiday. Actually, it's the official term for the holiday. You can call it whatever you want. The idea that I say Merry Christmas bothers some atheists, and I don't get that. Like it's some kind of sellout. Merry Christmas. If somebody says Merry Christmas to me, I smile and say it right back. I'd like to see this as a season where it's more about kindness than trying to hit people over the head with, did you realize that the origins of your traditions are pagan? Those are important discussions, like the one we're going to have next week with Aaron Raw. And there's a time and place for those. But when somebody's just being kind, Merry Christmas. Hope you have a great holiday. Hope your December is wonderful. Merry Christmas. You smile and say, thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. This is a gesture of goodwill between people. There are some who really take me to task over that. But I don't decorate for Christmas. I've never decorated for Christmas. Honestly, when I drive by many of the houses in this area and I see on the lights, and I got the inflatable Santas, these Santas that blow in the wind and usually deflate. And so it looks like somebody assassinated Santa. They're lying there on the ground and it just looks pathetic. There's a house over to my southeast. They have all this stuff that's tall and apparently top heavy. They have a tree, they have snowmen, they have 2 polar bears out there, these wire sort of polar bears that must be very lightweight. And they haven't anchored any of them to the ground. Well, it's been hugely windy. In fact, we had tornado warnings in the state of Oklahoma just 3 days ago. Okay. So every time we drive by, they look like they're dead. All these things are just laying on their side. They're all tipped over. It's like Massacre at Christmas kind of a thing. I've seen some that are lovely. We have driven to go see the Christmas lights. There's a church nearby that does it so big. They've got it's called Rhema Bible Training Center. It's a hub of bat shittery. And it's a wild, wacky, Pentecostal circus. I don't say that lightly. I mean, it's known for being Rhema. Are you a Rhema person? Right. And they have a Christmas light display that is award worthy. Obviously, they do it because they love Christmas. They also do it to get attention, which they do. There are lines wrapped all the way down 71st Street and all the way down Elm, both ways. Everybody's in line to go see this amazing vista. I don't know. I think it takes them 4 months to put all the lights out with a team of I don't know how many volunteers. So I can get into the magic of Christmas. This year, I actually decorated. We decided, well, let's just do something small. I'm not going to stick lights on the roof or anything like that. But we were at the store, and there's this deer. There's 2 of them. And they were actually not kitschy, not tacky. I thought that's really pretty. Well, I end up, I can't do it halfway. I can't stand it. We got the deer, and before I knew it, I had put lights all up in the evergreen-looking trees in the front yard. We got a couple of firs on the corner, and then there's the azaleas. Okay, I'm going to put lights in the azaleas. And then, hey, wait a minute. What if the deer are here and we do a stream? So the stream, well, hang on just a second. There's a little bit of rock right here. So let's take some LED lights, kind of a cool white and blue, and let's string them together and let's make a tiny little stream. And then it sort of pools out here where the doe is drinking. She's kind of put her head down near the, so now I've got a little pool, and then it kind of goes out and then it expands again and curves around near the sidewalk. And now before I knew it, I had committed myself to an entire weekend of Christmas decorations, reappropriating some of the stuff I had for Halloween, like a fog machine. I've got like a little tube with some perforations in it. So in the stream, there's a little bitty, a tiny sort of emanation of mist coming out where the water might be splashing against the rocks. What has happened to me? I never thought I would be that guy. Somebody said I was just simply getting older. It has been satisfying decorating just with color. A winter scene. There's no nativity, which I find most of them hugely tacky. Hugely tacky. Okay. Nativity scenes are the velvet Elvis paintings of religion. There's no crosses. There's no Jesus is the reason for the season. There's no just kitschy religious marketing going on. It's just a winter scene. And honestly, it's peaceful. Just made me happy. Maybe I am getting older. Maybe this is the kind of thing that maybe before long I'll be watching Matlock reruns and going to bingo night. I don't know. But I have decorated for Christmas, and it actually felt pretty good. I got these as a white elephant gift at a Christmas party years ago. I don't know if you're fans of the Mythbusters. Can you see those guys? Here, let me get out of the way. Mythbusters bobbleheads. I think one of them talks. Hang on. Or maybe his battery's dead. Sorry, Adam. Skeptic, atheist. They're supposed to be kind of gag gifts. And I brought them to give to somebody else, right? I found them, wrapped them, stuck them there. And then it's like Dirty Santa. Have you ever played Dirty Santa? Dirty Santa is actually big fun, where the gifts are all unmarked and you place them all in a big pile and everybody draws numbers. Let's say there's 15 people in the room. You ought to try this for Christmas if you're bored with the standard gift exchange, or as if in my family, the family's too big to really have gifts for everybody. So one solution was, and it was a clever one, they call it Classy Santa because they use the word dirty. Good Christian family doesn't say dirty, but it's Dirty Santa. And you can Google it if you want. So you draw names. So there's an order, 1 to 15. And person number 1 goes out and grabs whatever gift they want. They're just random. It's like, let's make a deal, right? You grab something and you think, what might be in this? You open it up and there's the gift. It is, let's say it's Mythbusters, okay? That's your gift. Person who has number 2 then can go and choose a gift. Or if they love the Mythbusters, they can steal your gift. And then you have to go back to the pile and draw something else. And a gift can be stolen up to 3 times before it becomes locked, meaning once it has been stolen a 3rd time, it's done. Whoever has it, and that's it. And it becomes a romp. It's so much fun because everybody is like, oh God, I want that, and oh God, I don't want that. And or the gifts themselves are just funny when you open the package and everybody's laughing about them. You'll get hugely inappropriate gifts. A makeup kit goes to a 70-year-old man, and somebody who lives in a cold part of the country gets like beach wear or something. But it's a different spin on the gift giving thing. It's a fun party game if you're doing a Christmas or holiday party. And so I brought the Mythbusters because I love the Mythbusters. It's one of those shows, it's like Breaking Bad and a few others, that in rerun, I'll still watch the entire episode front to back over and over and over and over again. And I brought this thinking it'd be a funny gift. And at the end, I was up to either choose or steal. No, I just stole these back. So I guess it was a self-serving gift. So they've been on my mantle for several years. I don't know if they're still for sale. The Mythbusters, of course, is no longer. Adam Savage was very candid about why he was no longer continuing with the show. He said, I am just paraphrasing here, but he said that he and Jamie Heineman just didn't like each other. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It was they were very different personalities, and they had great chemistry. They played great together as a show hosts. But I guess they just drove each other to climb the walls, and finally had enough. And it's probably a good thing. Mythbusters was starting to get to the point where it felt stretched and needed a breather. There is a reinvention or reimagining of Mythbusters. Is it released yet? I'm just now looking back into the comment sections. Has it released? And what are the reviews? If it's out, it's hosted by this young guy who got famous by doing science-related videos online, and I don't follow him. I don't know much about it. Immutable Destiny says it's not as good as the original. Silent Dissonance says new crew show is nowhere near as good. Miguel says it's decent. They tried back in Mythbusters' heyday a new show concept called Smash Lab. Now part of the reason we loved Mythbusters was they blew shit up. And it was always fun to see. And there was science behind it. There was a reason to do it. But somebody at Discovery Channel just decided, oh, well, if people like explosions, let's just blow shit up for an entire show. And so they hired 3 of the most vacuous hosts you have ever seen on television. And they just, under some really weak pretense, found a reason to just destroy things. And I think did it last a season? It was one of the worst things I've seen. They didn't have show chemistry, host chemistry. They didn't have really a good reason for doing it. And so the show died on the vine. It just was terrible. Joey says they tried too hard on the new one to be the old one. There is a Netflix series starring 3 of the former hosts of Mythbusters, Carrie and Grant and Carrie and Grant and Tori, called The White Rabbit Project, and they had some of the same problems. And I really like the 3, and I thought they had great chemistry together. I was grieved when Mythbuster let them go before their final season. But they did the White Rabbit Project, which was another sort of a science-based quirky thing. But they were trying way too hard. It's like they were trying to force something to happen. And I think if they had allowed these 3 hosts to do what they were doing more organically as they had it during the Mythbusters years, I think that show might have caught fire. I still think somebody could go in and tweak the formatting a little bit, and it would be an interesting show to watch. And I honestly think those 3 could carry a show. Do I still have the book here? Hang on. Yeah, I got it. I have in my possession, let's see if I can find the autograph, with a certificate of authenticity, Crash Test Girl by Carrie Byron of Mythbusters fame. I love all the hosts. I always had a soft spot for Carrie. I also thought it was important to see, as we need to be seeing more female science role models, people who are out there who are getting people excited about discovery. And she was always fun to watch. She was always laughing and smiling. She was game for almost any experiment they put her through. And I thought she, with Grant and Tori, had great chemistry. The White Rabbit Project, for that reason, still might be a good show. But whenever I saw this was releasing and you could get one autographed, I was like, well, hell yeah, give me one that's autographed. So I paid a few bucks extra. And let's see, what else? I would love to get like Carrie Byron on the air. Is she an atheist? I don't know. I know Adam Savage is an atheist. I mean, he appeared at the Reason rally and he has been a part of many secular events. But he's a big fish. These guys are so hard to land. I have another request to try to get in John Delancey from Star Trek fame, and he's been in so many other. He's been in film and television for 30 years. I'm going to try to get him back on the air in the new year, and he was just so gracious whenever we spoke. He was the kind of there are some people when you interview them, you get the vibe that they're working, and I get that, and you also get the vibe that they are looking at their watch. All right. What inspires you? All right. What's your latest project? Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities? Blah, 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 blah. And then there were other people like John Delancey who seemed to be feeding on the oxygen of the moment. When we finished the formal, I think it was a 35-minute interview back in 2016, he and I stayed on the phone. He just wanted to talk. He wanted to talk about science and reason and the challenges of living in this day and age where you have flat earthers and anti-vaxxers and all this stuff. And he seemed to be having an amazing time. With that kind of enthusiasm, I'd love to get him back, probably with almost no agenda. Hi, everybody. This is John Delancey. And how are you? And we'll just talk, right? And we'll just kind of see. There are some people that the inertia will take you wherever you need to go. You can just sit down with him. My buddy Dillahunty is like this. We'll just sit down. We'll just start talking. And before you know it, it's an hour and a half later. There have been a few times over dinner, I know that I've said, I wish I had a freaking microphone here. with him and Aaron when we were doing the Unholy Trinity tour. There's some other people that I know out there. Stephen Fry. Oh, what an amazing guest he would be. How does one land Stephen Fry when you are not, an A-list Joe Rogan sort of level broadcaster? I'm not. I'm a medium-sized fish in a fish tank. I'm not a whale in the ocean. I'm not a big fish in the ocean. I'm successful at what I do within a relatively small microcosm. Stephen Fry doesn't know I exist, doesn't have any reason to know I exist. Why the hell, in a world of a squillion podcast, would he ever agree to do my show and not somebody else's? How does one make that happen? I'm finding this is a little bit of a challenge with a lot of people like the Adam Savages of the world. Wouldn't you, even if you're a podcaster, everybody's saying, oh, I'd love to get them on the show. Imagine how many requests they get. Imagine how many people are pawing at them trying to say, oh, come on, would you be on my show? Would you do this? Would you do that? But, I can dream. I can dream. Let's see. What else is in the comments section? Have Matt and I spoken about the Pangburn thing? If you're not familiar with that, I'll let you Google it on your own. Honestly, I'm not going to get into it. I spoke, except to say that I spoke at a Pangburn sponsored event. Pangburn Philosophy is the name of the organization, or was, in Los Angeles. It was me, Matt, Cara Santa Maria on stage, and had a wonderful time. But I was just an invited guest. So, I didn't really do business beyond I was paid an honorarium to go speak, and that's it. I have seen, though, that apparently there's been some pretty untoward stuff happening. There have been events canceled, people left stranded and totally out the money. Hundreds of dollars they paid for tickets. There were speakers dropping out left and right. Pangburn folded. Beyond that, I'm just, whoa. Just take a look at it and find the whole thing kind of tragic. But you can Google that on your own. There's so much information out there, I wouldn't even know where to begin. What do I think of the Christmas music? Swatsy says, it's funny. Some Christmas music makes me want to stick my face in the garbage disposal. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's that happy, 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 jingly, jingly, sugary, sweet thing that they do starting actually in freaking October. I was in buying my Christmas deer, and I was actually irritated by the music. Ding, 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 and it's the most, except it's not a classic. When whoever's singing, it's the most wonderful time of the year, or Burl Ives doing Holly Jolly Christmas. Bing Crosby's White Christmas. I can even tolerate Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Okay, maybe once a month, in the month. But overall, there is a manufactured sweetness to the Christmas season that makes me throw up in my mouth. Do you understand this feeling, this sensation? Do you have this problem? It's about making memories and being with those you love, exchanging gifts. Play some good music. Put up the Christmas deer. We've got a Christmas tree. I got a big snowman head as the topper. We've got present underneath it, and we're going to have more before we get to the 25th of December. Yeah, okay. But this whole Hallmark Channel, retail commercial, sugary nothing, these empty calories of the seasons, they make me want to swallow my own head. I struggle with that, and I think it's probably because so much of it rings false. Let me back up. Halloween is a lot of things, including a big money maker. Next to Christmas, it is the most retail heavy or profitable, I guess, holiday of the year. I get that, right? Commerciality of Halloween, it's become more and more and more popular, fine. But it's still a sincere holiday. You don't see somebody going into a haunted house because, well, it's that time of year, and I guess I have to go to a haunted house again. They sincerely want to go, and they call their friends, and they're maybe dragging another friend, and they're all laughing at each other, and they go through and come out with a story and a wide-eyed look on their face. When they make their Halloween costumes, the joy they feel in doing so is sincere. When a child comes up to the door to get Halloween candy, and whenever the person answering the door sees the children in costume, that joy they see and experience is sincere. We're talking about a holiday that is pretty honest. You were honest with yourself about it. And if you're not into Halloween, you just don't celebrate. Christmas, however, is, well, if I buy something for little Timmy, I guess we'll have to buy something for little Janie as well. And if we don't go to so-and-so's house for at least 90 minutes, they're going to be mad because we went to your parents' house. And if we don't go to my parents and we do go to your parents, I mean, come on. I guess I better do this family function. I guess I'd better spend $3,000 on gifts that people are just going to mostly throw away. I guess I'm going to put together a hugely stressful calendar, blah, 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 blah. And then the music comes in on top of that, and it's like, there's a reason that depression is so rampant during this time of year. Part of it having to do with the weather. Some of it, I think, having to do with the stress of those who have lost people. And then they spend the holidays without those family members or friends. And some of it, I think a lot of it, is the fact that you are preparing to cram yourself in a room with family that you may not, relatives you may not relate to. But you do it. Why? Because I'm supposed to. You buy, everybody on this list gets a gift. Why? Because I'm supposed to. We put out the lights. I just don't think Christmas is as sincere as Halloween is. I don't know. Let's go back to the chat room and see if anybody else has something. Oh, real fast. Please, if you see somebody sharing that tremendously unfortunate and pretty much unsourced George H.W. Bush meme in the wake of his recent death, he was 94, just passed away. Former president of the United States, George H.W. Bush, is dead. Would you please stop or tell someone to stop sharing the meme with the quote attributed to him that says, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote in front of me, but something about how he said that atheists shouldn't be considered, even considered U.S. citizens. Hemant Mehta did yet another blog on this quote. It was allegedly overheard by one guy a long time ago. There are no corroborating witnesses. It wasn't written anywhere. Just some guy says he heard it at a party or something. Stop sharing that meme. It does not pass the fact check test. It doesn't pass the credibility test. There are some specific and genuine and necessary criticisms of George H.W. Bush, but let's root those in the evidence and in reality. The quote that you see floating around, please help debunk it. Just go out there and just, say, hey, wait a minute, this is not sourced. This does not pass the fact-checking test. Please stop sharing it. Would you do that? God, I must have seen it 10 times in the last 3 days. Stop. Share it. Jerome said, did he ever deny it? I don't know that he was ever asked about it. He probably didn't even know that it existed. But did someone ask him about it and did he deny it is not where that conversation begins. What the conversation begins is, do we have an original source, a vetted and verified source where we can say it was uttered, those words were uttered? And if not, come on, let's go find something else, something legitimate. This makes everybody look bad. When we do this kind of thing, it's like that Hemingway quote that everybody likes to pass around as proof of the superiority of atheism. Hemingway once said, all thinking men are atheists. What a shitty sentiment that is. First of all, Hemingway is not really, a genius that he was, Hemingway is not the one that we want to be using as a poster child. The guy put a gun to his head, right? He lived a pretty tragic life. And I'm not saying that negates his opinion. I'm just saying, is this really the guy you want on the marquee? Secondly, all thinking men are not atheists. All atheists are not thinking men or women. You lost me at all. All generalities are false. Please stop sharing that meme, end quote. You'll find people who are religious, who are very smart. You'll find people who are atheists, who are as dumb as a sack of hammers. There was another one floating around out there that I just hate. Religion is a mental illness. Stop sharing that. It is not accurate. Stop sharing it. Religion is an idea. Religion is not a mental illness. It's a bad idea, an unsubstantiated idea. Religion is not a mental illness, nor are the people who hold to a religious belief insane or mentally ill or retarded or whatever word they like to use. They are victims of bad ideas, but many of them are hugely intelligent people who operate in the real world, who want to live good lives. They are victims of bad ideas. They have that weird place in the brain. They're that place in the brain where the weird shit lives, that modular place where they can compartmentalize an irrational belief. It does not mean that their brain is damaged. It means that they are embracing a bad idea. And we want to replace that bad idea with better ideas. God, stop sharing that meme. Plus, is that really the foot we want to lead with? Religious people are all mentally ill. I, however, have a fully functioning brain. God. Is that how you're going to reach people? Is that how we want to approach people? You are damaged. I am not. So how are you? Someone asked why I don't criticize Islam. You got to be shitting me. I have Islam all over my social media pages, and I have, I don't know how many different uploads, podcast, video interviews with people who speak to Islam, criticize Islam, help ex-Muslims, whether it's Faisal Saeed al-Mutar and Ideas Beyond Borders and the amazing work they're doing to have books translated for free into Arabic to be distributed via the internet in Muslim cultures. Sarah Hayder, Muhammad El-Qadra I think that's the latest interview video that I produced. A guy who was a fundamentalist Islamist, now an atheist activist, who escaped Jordan fearing for his life. We told his story on video. I've got pieces out there where we talk about Armin Navabi. Guy tried to kill himself when he was 12 because he was afraid that if he reached the age of sort of Islamic accountability, 15, and he was a sinner, he would go to hell. So he wanted to guarantee heaven for himself. I've had him on the show I don't know how many times. Yes, we talk about Islam, and that's an interesting thing, because when you talk about Christianity, people say, why don't you talk about Islam? And if you talk about Islam, people say, well, why don't you talk about Christianity? And if you talk about either one, someone might say, why don't you talk about Scientology, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, fear cults of other stripes? I don't mean to go off on you. It's not personal. I just think all it takes is a cursory scrolling of the content of the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel and Facebook page and Twitter feed and website to see that we cover we don't do much with Judaism, but honestly, I don't care quite as much about Judaism, because what's the statistic? Over half of let's see what I'm going to get the stat wrong, so please look it up on your own and check me on this. There is an alarming percentage of those who are Orthodox Jews who are actually non-believers in God. They are practicing Jews, not even Orthodox, just practicing Jews. But they practice a cultural tradition without any supernatural faith. They are atheists. They don't believe in God. So, and that's there is some damage done by Judaism, and we've gotten into many of the practices that are damaging. But right now, Christianity and Islam are the 1-2 punch. They are the big ones. And so that's where I spend most of my time. Forgive me. Tangent. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. Don't worry about going off. People will understand. Thank you. What do I think the world would be like if women were unaffected by religious indoctrination? Do I think the misogynistic Abrahamic faiths would have less soldiers for the holy war? God, that's a big... I just think everybody wins if women are empowered, if women are respected and liberated and treated like equals. I think everybody wins. I mean, except for those... You could say that those who are entrenched in the halls of patriarchal power, especially in religious contexts, you could say they would lose, but that's a good thing because humanity wins, right? We make a less oppressive world, a less oppressive future for all. Everybody wins. Do I think Western morality is grounded in Judeo-Christian values? Fuck no. Jordan Peterson, what the hell is that guy talking about? I think I need more coffee. I'm just not dealing well. Hang on. No. I hear this from like Prager University, where Judeo-Christian values are posited as the thing that everybody, all other moral creatures borrow in the living of their ethical lives as the framework for their moral religions like to borrow, because they borrow all the good stuff and then they stamp their brand of ownership upon it and say, we own this, you just borrow it. We own this, you're just pretending to own it. I have gotten more interested and educated about the nature of our evolved ethical systems, about how we determine what is right and wrong, about living to minimize harm, about altruistic behavior. You know, when we're doing good supposedly with no reciprocal benefits. And of course, I'm of the mind that what helps you helps the human race, helps society, helps me. So probably in some capacity, it's all reciprocal. But the idea that Jordan Peterson and Shapiro and anybody who says Prager University says that, Judeo-Christian values provide the foundation for Western. Well, what is Western morality? What the hell are they talking about? Western civilization. What? God. I'm sorry. I am in conflict a little bit about Jordan Peterson. I think, anybody has the right to invite him to any event they want. And you'll see some fireworks. You'll see some, I saw it when he was on stage with Matt Dillahunty. I actually support the idea of, putting him on a stage and challenging him. He's already hugely popular, so it's not like he is benefiting from somebody else's spotlight. But after his bad ideas are exposed once, I have a hard time justifying inviting him back over and over and over again, because now we're just feeding the Peterson machine. If the guy's making $80,000, I can't imagine making on Patreon $80,000 a month. What's that come to a year? Plus his book sales, plus his speaking fees. Holy shit! This guy's making a shit ton of money for what? For saying weird things like Matt Dillahunty is too moral, so he can't be an atheist? Are you shitting me? Talking about things like the metaphysical substrate? Sorry. I'd like, now that we know where he comes from, and now we know that we can probably start looking in other places for good ideas, consistently good. I think I'd like to see the chair that they're giving to him on stage. I'd like to see that given to somebody else. They can populate their shows any way they want, wherever he goes. But I'd like to see somebody else go up there and, Let's see. There's somebody else. Do we have a troll or somebody? I'm not really able to follow the chat. I don't have a moderator today. It's just me. There was a question I wanted to address. What do I think the popularity of Jordan Peterson is an indication of? What do I think Gwynne Paltrow selling non-science science to the tune of perhaps millions of dollars is an indication of? What do I think about the popularity of Dr. Oz on daytime television, a guy who is hugely problematic when it comes to science, despite all of his medical background and credentials? So what do I think about a world where New Age healing and crystals and just general woo is a multi-billion-dollar business? I think people respond to charismatic figures. I think people respond to what they consider authority. I think people like to embrace what they consider to be off the mainstream ideas because they don't trust mainstream ideas. I'll trust these folks over here because the scientists, well, they're all in collusion. So I'll trust these people over here who are critical of scientists. The people talking about climate change, they're all the mainstream. They're the establishment. They're the system. They're the man. I think I'll go over here and cast my lot in with the, that's not the right metaphor. I'll throw my hat in with these people who are the Robin Hoods. I don't know. I think, there's a lot of reasons to explain the popularity of unfortunate figures. And I have no doubt Jordan Peterson's probably a nice guy. I have nothing personal against him. I just think I don't get it. And I certainly don't get this weird apologetic system that exists around Peterson. What he said in this instance is wrong. And the response is, well, have you seen it in the larger context? What context is that? Well, have you read this book, this book, this book, and this book? No, but I can speak to it in the context of this conversation. Well, you have to go back here and read these books and do this and stand on one foot and, wiggle your nose. And what the hell are you talking about? It's almost like watching someone defend the Old Testament. Well, have you read the original Greek and Hebrew manuscripts in the context of this century and blah, 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 and stood on one foot and wiggled your nose and had the Holy Spirit lead you? Well, only then can you truly understand the message of Jordan Peterson. Okay, let's do a couple more. No, I don't believe in karma. I believe in cause and effect. I did a speech on this. How does that say? Welcome to the Karma Cafe. There are no menus. Here you get served what you deserve. I live in a world where, sometimes I really wish people would get what they deserve. For better and for worse. The people who commit their lives to helping human beings and to making the world a better place and being charitable and being good. And so many times we see those people and they just get their asses kicked. They are completely at the mercy of a very uncaring world and they don't get what they deserve. Meanwhile, you see somebody like, I don't know, pick an untoward or tremendously terrible figure who has gained fame and wealth and power. And you think, hey, these people are living the high life. They're awful people doing awful things to people everywhere and have committed their lives to awfulness, and they are essentially rewarded. I don't believe in karma, no. In the short run, though, in a closer circle, I do believe in cause and effect. If you do something to someone directly, that there will be an effect. If you say a kind word, hopefully there will be a positive effect. If you are negative to people, you will see negativity that will come back. But that's not karma. That's more of a action-reaction in a physical world. What happens after we die? There's no reason to believe in a heaven or a hell or reincarnation or a spirit plane of any kind. It looks like our bodies simply decay and we are sort of reincorporated back into the earth and eventually back into the universe. We came from stardust and we will be again. Forgive me as I read very quickly to see if there's anything else before we call it a day. Do I think it's truly possible to change people's mind? Incoming backup says, because I stopped believing it a long time ago. I get your frustration. I get your frustration. You are looking at a guy who believed in Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, the Israelites in Egypt, the story of Esther, the story of Job, and the story of Jesus coming to earth. Believed that the end times were coming. I believed in a literal heaven, literal hell. I was a literal, true, blue, 100% Christian who I was reasoned out of my faith. Yeah, that's possible. Doesn't happen often enough. It's extremely frustrating when you're dealing with people who have a greater desire to believe than they have to know, who are giving you that mannequin stare and barking apologetics back at you. They're just sort of reflecting back what you say in the reverse. They're not really engaging. I don't spend any time with those people unless there's an audience, someone else where there might be some doubters or people who could benefit from the exchange. One-on-ones, I don't spend any time with apologists of any kind, even the ones next door, right? They're not going to be convinced, especially with data. They have a greater desire to believe than they have to know. But I'll tell you, there's a shit ton of people out there who are secretly, when nobody's looking, going, this doesn't wash, or I don't like this, or I don't need this, or I don't do this. Oh, yeah, I believe in God. I don't go to church. I don't pray. I don't believe in miracles. I essentially live a secular life, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I don't want to persecute non-heterosexuals. You know what? I want women to have control of their own bodies. You know what? I think it's stupid for us not to have a death with dignity system here in the United States. You know what? I think it's dumb that we don't take care of our poor and disadvantaged. Those types of things. And those are the people I'm most interested in, because they're going to be the ones who, if they hear somebody else who is speaking boldly in criticism of religion, to them, that's going to be interesting. They're going to sit up in their seat and they're going to want to know what's that about. That's interesting. And then before you know it, maybe when you speak, reflecting thoughts they've had in their own head, and then they're realizing they're not alone. And then maybe one day they call you or tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, can we have coffee? I have some questions. Yes. I think that minds can be changed. I don't think we give up, but we have to do a better job of choosing our battles, meaning do a better job of using our time wisely. Your time is valuable. So stop doing the one-on-ones with the freaking Jehovah's. I know this is controversial. If two blindly brainwashed Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, unless it's an exercise for me that benefits me, an exercise in engaging an apologist, which that has merit. If you are attempting to change the minds of these two brainwashed people, you are wasting your time. Your time could be better used focusing on people who they're more pliable, they're more open, they're more doxastically open to new ideas, fresh perspectives. You can spend 90 minutes at your kitchen table barking back and forth with a glassy-eyed Jehovah's Witness. Knock yourself out. That, to me, is a waste of your time. Unless there's somebody else watching who might be doubting, who could benefit, you're wasting your time. I would spend my time on people where, I'm not just talking to a retail store mannequin with a necktie. Somebody who might genuinely be interested in listening and responding. And, I'm not saying that it's impossible with the people who come door to door, but I've never met one. Okay. Let me block somebody real fast. Oh, yeah. That's gratifying. Look, I know it's the internet, but let's be respectful. Let's treat each other with some respect and kindness, please. The internet is filled with these sort of pre-adolescent attention getters, and what they want is to get noticed, and they want you to stop what you're doing and focus on them, because that's what shallow, empty, insecure people do. I don't spend much time on them. No. The guy I blocked, her name was Coon, Coon, just being tremendously, I haven't been able to follow it very well, but just being generally awful. If there's someone else who disrupts, I'll do my best. Let me know. I don't owe you a place here on this chat room. You don't automatically get a seat at the table if you're going to be awful, disrespectful, childish, juvenile, and you're going to act out like a 2-year-old. Goodbye. Life's too short. Okay. Trolls, the internet trolls, which I see, honestly, these are tremendous. If you think about why trolls do what they do, many of them, I think, are they see themselves as these sort of brave anarchist, not in the governmental sense, but these people who are like they want to create chaos for its own sake. It makes them feel powerful to be the instigators of chaos on the internet, in a comment section. There are other people who this is honestly probably the only way they know how to interact with other human beings, is just show up and be a tremendous dick. The rest of us don't have to abide you. There's another one. And, I think the internet has provided, you'll see on any channel. I mean, you can see it anywhere. You can go to religious channels, you can go to secular channels, you can go to humanist channels, you can go to political channels, and you will find that there are bottom dwellers in any online culture. And I think, they want to come in, they want to get noticed, they want to feel powerful. If this is how someone feels powerful, how pathetic has your life become? How pathetic has your life become? You need to reevaluate. You need to just take a second and you need to look in the mirror and say, am I really satisfied with being as barely evolved as this? And then commit yourself to trying to grow up, to try to make a contribution in this world that doesn't involve, all caps profanity and gratuitous language and slurs, racial, sexual slurs, whatever. I'm sorry. The difference between knowing and believing. God, I just got into a conversation about this. You guys want me to keep going? We've been on the air for 52 minutes. I want to be a good steward of your time. No, I would think that'd be pretty rudimentary. Knowing versus believing. Belief is a subset of knowledge. But we had a conversation about atheists versus agnostics. I don't hold to the fact that someone who says they're an agnostic, they're just a coward, an atheist without balls, is what somebody had said. I think that, if I know something to be true, I know it through experimentation. If I believe something to be true, I don't think that has quite as an intense burden of proof. I believe this. Do I have a good reason to believe that? But I don't spend a whole lot of time on the semantics of knowing versus believing. Belief is a word that religions like to use in a slippery way. There was somebody else. Come back here. If you want to keep going, this has been a good ramble. We'll do a few more minutes, and then you can listen at your leisure or watch at your leisure. Have I met any non-religious atheists in my area? Well, Tulsa, Oklahoma has the atheist community of Tulsa, and they're a pretty strong and healthy freethought group. I'll tell you what's been most interesting. They don't necessarily live here. I am interested in the people that I knew when I was a true believer who were also true believers, and we separated in our lives. I left a job, they left a job, they moved out of state. Our circles separated. And then we ran into each other 20 some years later, and we had both been on a journey of doubt and exploration and education and epiphany and apostasy. There's one friend of mine, her name is Jennifer. She was a listener when I was on KXOJ radio, and just a tremendous person. And I noticed her. I forgot exactly how I came to. Was she on my page? Did she send me an email to the Thinking Atheist? And in her own life, she had gone through a journey of this is all bullshit. I'm an atheist. And we sort of met each other on the other side. Hey, how you doing? By the way, I'm also an atheist. It was weird. There have been broadcasters. I know broadcasters now in Christian ministry. I know broadcasters. I know a worship pastor. I know a pastor. They are non-believers in the supernatural. They took that journey on their own, and then we all of a sudden sort of bumped into each other decades later. One guy I know who's the pastor of his church, most of his sermons are, as I understand it, mostly just humanist sermons. They're more about people. Hey, you're LGBTQ, fine, you're welcome. Hey, you're a woman and your rights are your voice is welcome here. Your rights are honored here. You are important here. Come on, all the stuff, all the restrictions that fundamentalist Christianity is supposed to put, and this guy used to adhere to. Now he just says, he's redesigned his church. Now, is he an atheist? I honestly, he may be in a deist position, but he is essentially, he and I rendezvoused after he had taken that journey, and we sort of bumped into each other. He's like, hey, how's it going? The Clergy Project is an interesting project which has people who are in positions of ministry right now who are atheists and secretly wondering what's going to happen with the rest of their lives. And they've become part of the Clergy Project, which is a place where they can go in safety, whether anonymously or under a pseudonym or only a first name, and be able to act and interact and deal with people who are going through much of the same thing. That's the part that interests me the most. I think there's a silent underground of people who are in ministry, who are believers in Christ, who are Christian, who really aren't. And they're just sort of going along to get along right now, but they're craving the day when they can just shout it out loud. And they're trying to figure out how to make that happen without essentially blowing their entire life into orbit. Mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, my employer, my neighbors, my family, my friends, my church, my spouse, my children. I think there are more non-believers in this city, I think, than anybody really realizes. I saw it in the South. I did a speaking tour in 5 cities in the South in a week 2 years ago. We had people coming out of the woodwork. They're like, I can't. My boss would fire me. He'd find a reason to fire me. I can't tell my parents. My kids will lose. I'd lose my children in a custody fight. Blah 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 blah. But they were desperate to come out and breathe the oxygen of free thought in an event like this. They're just waiting for that critical mass. That's why it's important for those of us who are in positions where we can say it loud and proud. I'm an atheist, an agnostic, a rationalist, a humanist, a non-believer in deities. It's important for us to say that. You never know when somebody's going to be within listening distance, and they will take encouragement and support from that. We have to support each other because we don't believe in any gods. Forgive the long answer. 1 or 2 more and we'll quit. What do I think of menists? I'm not sure I understand the term. Menists. Like male rights groups? Thank you, Luz. Much appreciated. Have I ever seen A UFO. No. Compatibilism versus determinism versus free will. Hell no. Dillahunty's going to be staying in my house in a couple of weeks. He's going through the city. Maybe I'll fire up a camera and ask him about free will, but that's just you got to pack a lunch for free will. I do play computer games. I play on Twitch when I get my computer back. A warranted computer is supposed to be here in the next few weeks. We'll see. I'll be back on my Twitch channel, Seth Andrews TTA on Twitch. I like to play mostly horror games because I enjoy the atmosphere and intensity of horror, just like I like scary movies. I'm not playing now because the laptop simply doesn't have the ability to run my games on Twitch. I just don't have the processing power to do it. But I'll be back probably in January for sure. Twitch.tv/Seth Andrews TTA. One last one. I don't think desiring community is juvenile. Ooh, I'd like to see the beginning of that conversation. Let me scroll upward. Did someone say that seeking community is juvenile? Because I have an opinion on this one. Oh, they're talking about flat earthers. Most flat earthers are just attention-starved and juvenile thinkers hungry for a club so they can feel special. Well, actually, I just recently read somewhere, I think it was a science enthusiast page who posted that now the flat earthers, or some flat earthers, say that the earth is actually a donut. Like it's a donut, like with a hole in the middle. It's like a donut. Community. Let's talk about that. So there are these free thought oasis groups. It's a great one in Kansas City, and there are other ones that pop up all around the country. And they're often called Atheist Church. I can see why. I mean, I had a great time at Oasis. You go in, they have announcements, they'll sing some songs. It's usually stuff like John Lennon's Imagine and some of that kind of stuff. You know, human-related stuff about love and life and purpose and goodness. And, then they'll have special music. They had a guy come out and play guitar, and the guy was damn good. And then a speaker will come out and do it's not a sermon, but, it's like a presentation, like you could hear at a college campus. You could hear it at a motivational seminar. Sometimes they're scientists, they're humanists, they're activists of different stripes, they're educators, they're just people. And they call this, many people are like, well, you just went to Atheist Church. You just sacrificed one church for another. Well, I don't have a problem with somebody using a church model to have a free thought event because, quite frankly, the church has been really good at community. And you can learn a lot from their ideas. Doesn't mean that the church's foundation is correct. But, if somebody wants to use that template, I don't begrudge them that. It also doesn't mean that the people who attend are sheep or sacrificing their individuality or religious about their atheism or humanism. I'm so sick and tired of watching people apologize for being communal creatures, for being social creatures. We are not meant to live and act in isolation. We're just not wired for that. And why in the world would we try when the billions of dollars religious machine is out there trying to influence our children, trying to co-opt the narrative everywhere we look? They're trying to own the holiday on Christmas and tell the rest of us that we don't get to. When they're trying to determine our way of life, why in the world would our efforts to counter that remain? Why would we want that to remain in our back pocket? One person or two people at a time. Never do it in groups. Never organize. Never fund anything that you do. Don't ever create an organization or have an activist event. Don't do that because you're just being religious. What you have just done is you just surrendered to the church what belonged to human beings beforehand. And it's a crime. Do not give to the church what they so desperately want to own. They don't own community. They don't own group activities. They don't own friendship and laughter and purpose and setting of goals and trying to work toward a better tomorrow in a group. They don't own that. They're great at it, but they do not own it. And every time you say, well, I'm not going to come and be a part of it. If you want to opt out because it's just not your bag, that's one thing. But to not participate in it or to criticize it because you are calling these people sheep, the sheeple, the atheist religious, the humanist religious, what you have done is just given a big, fat, wet, sloppy kiss to the church. They want to own community, and they just don't. And they just don't. Let's embrace each other. If somebody's having a group thing, drinking with atheists, they're having a Sunday oasis, if they're going to have a convention or something in your area, if you're getting together with any group of people of like mind, you can benefit so greatly from that. You can remind each other you're not alone. You can exchange ideas. You can laugh. You can have human connection. You can be humanist together. And I think we need to stop apologizing and start doing more of that. I think we need to go out and be better at embracing what we can accomplish in numbers instead of just by ourselves. The show, which releases tomorrow on YouTube, is called Unskeptical, Finding the Real Story in a World of Half-Truths. Again, my patrons already have it, and if you'd like to support me on Patreon, your Christmas gift there would be greatly appreciated. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. I and the Mythbusters, thank you. And I'll see you next time.